Getting into comic books can sometimes feel like a daunting experience, especially when you have to consider that in order to get like a good sense of the complete story, you have to buy multiple comic books in order to get into it, which just costs a lot of time, energy, and effort.
Here comes the money.
Here we go.
So today I wanted to approach things a little differently, and I wanted to give you 5 comic book recommendations that all tell the complete story within just one volume or less, meaning you only have to make one purchase to get the entire story that the writer intended, which is a very rare feat in the world of comic books.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Where would an introduction into comic books be without a recommendation into the greatest superhero of all time? I could have introduced you to Superman All-Star, Superman for All Seasons, Superman Truth, Justice the American Way, Kingdom Come, and Last Son of Krypton, all of which are fantastic self-contained stories where you only have to make one purchase to enjoy it. But my personal favorite, and what was my introduction into this character, was Superman Up in the Sky by Tom King. This is a story about Superman going off into the galaxy to find and rescue a kidnapped girl and dealing with kind of the consequences of that, because he's leaving an Earth that very much is still in need of him. And Superman has to wrestle with that idea before setting off to try and find this lost girl who is an orphan that arguably nobody cares about. So it is dealing with that weight of understanding of whether or not it is actually the right thing to do, given that he's leaving so many people on Earth in order to go and rescue this one person. And it deals with the relationship he has with Lois, and it deals a lot more with the relationship he has with Batman as well, whilst also going on this episodic adventure in order to find this little girl. And it's beautifully well told, it's wholesome, and I absolutely adore every single moment with this. But for every optimistic character, there is a dark, brooding anti-hero lurking in the shadows, waiting to punch bad guys to an inch of their life without actually killing them, because that would not make them a hero. Rather than introducing you to the most obvious anti-hero that comes to mind when you describe any sort of hero like that, I'm going to introduce you to Marvel's spin of Batman, which is a character called Moon Knight. You've probably seen the TV show, and if you have, it is essentially the story that the TV show was based off, and it does a much better job than the TV show. It deals with Mark Spector, aka Jake Lockley, aka Stephen Grant, aka Moon Knight, who doesn't know which personality is the real one, and he doesn't even know if any of them are real or if it is all just in his head, and he's actually a psychiatric patient in a mental institute trying to wrestle with all of his mental health problems. Or is it actually happening? Is Moon Knight a real character? And it actually kind of makes you question that idea. And what's really unique about that collection and that story is how unique the panel art and the page layout design really works in favor to try and enhance the reader's experience. And it does such a fantastic job of using its artwork in order to emphasize and engage the audience on the struggles of this character who is so flippant between these personalities. And it does such a fantastic job of making that clear and evident to the reader. You're not really going to feel confused. Arguably a perfect story, and one that I truly cherish and love to this day, and it's one I'm going to hold on to for as long as I can. So when we think Western comic books, typically people go for Marvel or DC, but there is another branch to that tree, which is independent comic book. And typically these are self-contained stories within the world of comic books, meaning you don't have to worry about tie-in or spin-offs or anything like that. You simply pick up the first volume and enjoy the read until the very end. And with Origins, you only have to make that purchase once. This is a science fiction dystopian future where AI nanobot robots have taken over and wiped out humanity off the face of the planet by wiping out humanity's food resources and killing it all off so that humans starve themselves to death. Cut to 1,000 years in the future, and a mysterious AI robot has decided to reincarnate a human being. And this particular human being is the very person that invented the robots that wiped out humanity. And now it is up to him to restore humanity back to what they once were. It is a truly fantastic science fiction story, one that I absolutely loved and didn't even know existed until doing my research and reading it and checking it out for myself. Definitely recommend this read if you want to read a dark science fiction style story. truly recommend. I'm probably going to reread it now that I'm talking about it so much. 8 Billion Genies is a story about 8 billion genies that all sporadically come into existence as soon as the human population reaches 8 billion people. What's truly unique in this is that this is an ensemble cast, and those 8 issues span over the time frame of 800 years. Because it's such an ensemble cast, you get to see both the origins of this story making all the way to the very end of its story as well, and it's truly unique because typically in the world of comic books you are dealing with one singular character, and the story and the world and everything focuses on just one character. But with 8 Billion Genies, it's the opposite. It's an ensemble cast that allows the world building and the events within the world to kind of rein in as focus for what would happen in this world. And yes, there are characters that get a bit more spotlight than others, but typically this is a story that is hugely diverse with its characters and its cast and its storytelling, and one that is 100% recommended to you to read. But last but not least, and I'm cheating a little bit here, is Judge Dredd Essentials. Now this is kind of like an 80s character of a police officer that has the power of the judge, jury, and executioner, and it's a judicial system that has taken over from democracy, which has failed. And Judge Dredd is essentially going up against this uprising that wants to restore democracy to being the main judicial system. However, a Judge Dredd who is against that judicial system wants to keep the system the way that it is, and it is about him going up against this uprising. It is a collection of mini stories that focus on this concept and premise, and it does come to a resolution as well, so you do get a good sense of the events that happen, and it doesn't always focus on Judge Dredd. Typically, you're actually focusing on characters that go up against Judge Dredd, kind of making him more or less the villain of the story. It is a much more complex character than that. It's not as simple to say that he's just the villain, and I learned that from my video that I made, but it is a beautifully well told story, and one that truly takes on a very mature themed content or premise, such as the political divisive issue of whether or not democracy is a system that should stick around or not, but one that truly explores the nature of the world that you're about to be introduced to. It serves not only as an introduction to comic books, but an introduction into Judge Dredd as well. So there you have it, 5 quick recommendations for getting you into the world of comic books. Just remember that this truly is barely even the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how wide and varied comic books can truly be. I personally love all of these stories. They're all the stories that I initially read when I first started getting into comic books that have really stuck with me in my time of reading, and I truly still think back on and reflect on as how important those stories were and what they actually meant for me as somebody who now loves this medium of sequential art. I really truly recommend all of these choices, but if you don't know what to pick, then pick the one that sounds the most interesting and just give it a read. See if it's worth your time. See if it's something that's what you want to get into. And don't worry about having to continue. There are definitely more stories out there. If you wanted to continue more Judge Dredd, you need only ask. Moon Knight and Superman are ongoing characters, so they will always have more stories to be told. But at the same time, all of these stories do come to a complete resolution as well, so you don't need to make any more purchases after checking these ones out. But let me know what you guys think. Is there a particular comic that you guys love that you really want to see? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, take care of yourselves, be true to who you are, and have a wonderful day. Alright, peace.